Maxwell, all members of the Maxwell family, but most importantly, the one who has left us, though he was here at the beginning of the meeting, Owen Maxwell. His grandfather never saw him. He's only been in existence for 3 months, and he is the person for whom we are fighting. Now, I have news for Joyce Macmillan, whose speech I enjoyed so very much and with whom I agreed so frequently. Britain ceased to exist on the 1st of January 1801. Sorry about that, Joyce. It went out of existence when the Act of Union with Great Britain and Ireland was brought into being, came into force. Rather entertainingly, the evening papers of the day carried an official notice saying that it was to be assumed that everybody was in favour of this, and therefore any attempt at celebrations would be severely dealt with by the magistrates. You can rather see why. The Scottish magistrates weren't necessarily wanting to see that much of the enlargement of the possible people able to cut the cake. But such it was. Britain ceased to have any constitutional existence. So too did the earlier myths of the 18th century of North Britain and South Britain. North Britain was popular as a term used by the English, less so by the Scots perhaps. South Britain never seems to have got anywhere at all. No, it was the United Kingdom, and it remained so in 1922. The Irish Free State came into existence, but the United Kingdom then became the United Kingdom of Great Britain and Northern Ireland. And Northern Ireland today, by a majority, a very definite majority, is in favour of the retention of that union. And that majority in Northern Ireland appears to be rather more enthusiastic about the union than almost anybody on the island of Britain. And what do they do with those brave people of Northern Ireland who have sustained 30 years of a bloody awful war? Why, they ignore them. They talk about Britain as though Northern Ireland didn't exist. Now, if the defence of the Union begins with the fact that the defenders of the Union don't know geography, don't know history, don't know politics, we're in a fairly sad way. We can go further and say the Prime Minister himself has come up here and said he's in favour of the Union. He uses the word Britain, although the class he came from used to say England 50 years ago. Nancy Mitford pointed out that England was the you thing to say, Britain was the incorrect word for that one. But anyhow, the Prime Minister came up and said, yes, that he wanted the Union to exist. He particularly pointed out that Britain, as he called it, had the 4th largest defence potential in the world. That if you only stayed in the United Kingdom, you could kill more people than anyone else except for 3 nations. Throw that away, and how many people can you kill, for goodness sake? To make matters worse, in the words of Stephen Maxwell, when he said goodbye to me for what I didn't know that he did was the last time, a year and a half ago in the National Library, taking the book, the great book Arguing for Independence, which we must keep beside us and in our arguments right to Independence Day and beyond, as well as this book. But he said, remember, only by independence can we get rid of trident and nuclear weaponry. Only by independence. And that, of course, is the essential fact. If we are going to throw away this warfare ethos, this yearning for masculinity by the capacity to wipe out everybody except 3 other people, if we're going to get rid of that, then we're going to require independence to do it. Because the rest are, the defenders of the Union are hypnotized by the promise of death. So we start off there. Now, the Prime Minister up there explained that oh, he realised that we didn't like him here, so he was not going to make the case himself. It was going to be left in the hands of Alistair Darling, a man whom he otherwise describes as responsible for the greatest depression the world has ever known. These are the hands which the Prime Minister thinks the Union will be safest in, at least in its defence. He also hoped to recruit Gordon Brown, who, however, appears to have declined to be on the same platform with his former Chancellor of the Exchequer, but has formed his own association. In terms of actual arguments for the Union, we have been given none, except, as you've been hearing, scare stories. We've been given none because I do not think in their hearts they know any. What are we fighting for? We're fighting for one thing, an end to xenophobia. We are fighting for the right of people to come to this country, to enjoy this country, to become Scots. Socially we want them, economically we very much want them. And this militates very much against the ethos of what appears to be increasingly all parties in the South. We are being told, wait your place, do not intervene. Scotland has something to do when the Labour Party in London will tell it what it is. The Liberal Democrats to tell us that if we figure out long enough, somebody may give us a job under another government. But then, and we have, of course, the Tories with their death state. It is a wonderful series of alternatives. What have they to tell us which is more than this? Well, they have not done so. We want to have a system of education, a recognition that education becomes an absolute priority, while they want to dismantle it. We want to have a health system in which the people of Scotland are second to none in their health. Oh, that is much less important than the nuclear bomb. And as we maintain, we are not only speaking from the point of view of left-wing Scottish traditions, of nationalism at its richest, fullest and best, we are also speaking, ladies and gentlemen, of conservatism, because we want to conserve what is best and what they want to destroy, beginning with education, beginning with open frontiers, beginning with the destruction of the weapons of war. All of these things are part of the inheritance of the Scottish, and indeed British, and indeed Irish past. And we are standing by the best of the traditions, by what we have learned from the past, and the kind of government you have at the moment, it is not conservative. It cannot wait to tear away that which they believe they will make individual profits from once they are so torn away. The case for left-wing nationalism is not a matter of fragmentation. It is not a question of deviation. It is not the creation of splinter groups. It is the only case, if we are to win at the referendum, because there are very large numbers of people in the Labour Party. Their votes will be essential to an independence referendum. If we can convince them that the great achievements of the Labour Party in times past, notably the welfare state of 1945 to 51, can only be honoured and maintained in an independent Scotland, and will be frittered away, betrayed, stabbed in the back and bargained away if left to the successors of that Labour Party who are now in charge in London, we will lose. We must convince the Labour Party that their future lies with us. We must. I'm not asking for conversion from the high regions, certainly not. We have quite a number of leaders of whom we're very proud. We're not necessarily looking for any other ones. Above all, we have to think of not only Stephen Maxwell, but Neil McCormack, whose spirits lead us on. But we must remember, we have to talk to the ordinary people to whom the inheritance of Labour meant so much, and said, you believe in these ideas of education for all, of health for all, of a country welcoming all, of an end to nuclear warfare, of an end to nuclear deterrence. If you believe in those things, then independence is the cause for you. And the case for left-wing nationalism is the case for Scotland.